so strong and true, the very best I've always shared with you. And if I should fall, or if I'm standing tall, I can see you standing there, always willing to share.
Good morning. This is George Wright from the Partnership Show. I appreciate coming back on the air. I've had my colleagues join you, Danny and Joshua. Big shout out to you for making it happen. I think we're going to have a very exciting show. I want to make sure that everybody knows what the partnership does, who we are. This program is always sponsored by the Cook County. Thank you, Madam President Tony Preckwinkle, for support for the Partnership Show. Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership is a nonprofit umbrella organization that operates the largest publicly funded workforce system in the country, working with nearly 100 agencies in Chicago and Cook County that offer job search and training assistance, basically connecting job seekers with those who are providing careers. We actually also have our agencies come on the show with us, and I'm excited about this show because I'm going to have my partner, Clelia Gomez. I want to make sure that Clelia is here. Clelia, are you on the phone?
Good morning. Yes, Mr. Wright, I'm here.
Good morning, and how are you this morning?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful. Thank you.
So each and every show, we start off with a song that it has some connective tissue to the topic that we're going to discuss. And Anita Baker came out with this song, You're the Best Thing Yet. So the theme for this show will be the best thing yet. So I want to actually kind of set this program up by talking about a recent experience that I had and why this song is so applicable to the show this morning. So for years, you've initiated a GED program, and part of that program culminates in a graduation for students, young adults, seniors, etc., that want to come in and get their GED, their high school diploma. And the graduation ceremony that I attended a week ago offered me an opportunity to make a few comments to the students that were graduating. And one student came up to me afterwards and said, Mr. Wright, this is the best program that's ever happened to me. I was sitting in the front row as I was being called up, and I heard a parent talk to it. I think it was her another sibling or another daughter or son, but she turned and I didn't see who she was talking to, and she said, and she was talking about her daughter that was in the program, was graduating, and she said, this is the best thing yet that's ever happened to her. And so, once again, that song and this show will be talking about the best thing yet. So, Ms. Gomez, you are the co-director of Central State Circle. You're a partner of the Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership. So explain to our listening audience your journey in terms of how you got to the point where you are co-directing an agency that really works with so many programs, including our youth, which we're going to focus on this morning.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for the opportunity. I've been in workforce development 17 years, so almost 20 years. I started as a career coach. That was my first job in the west side of Chicago. Did that for 7 years, and then little by little, as I continue my education, and, I always said that my mission in life is also my ministry. It's what I do for work. So I am blessed to say that my job is also my passion. I just, helping individuals and guiding them in their career path, whether they're adults and youth.
Running commercials.
Oh, are you still there?
Yes,
okay.
I'm here.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Whether working with adults, and youth and guiding them in their career path and just coaching them has been, it's what I like. People give me energy, and so in the past maybe 8-10 years, we've been working with youth ages 16 to 24 who are out of school, out of work, and then trying to create innovative ways to engage youth in activities and to get them back in school, especially, the population of young individuals who dropped out of high school, which is a large population, and working with schools to get the youth refer them into our programs. We have a GED program, and we assist the young individuals in, involving them in GED. And then, get them into classes, and, we take them into field trips. We do, job readiness activities and a lot of stuff to keep them engaged in activities at our center. So,
Ms. Gomez, I want to really kind of go back to, one of the original points that I was bringing up, which is, I've met you, I've talked to you, I've spent time with you, and the passion that you have for this work is palatable. It's really evident. All you have to do is spend 2 minutes with you, and you understand, a person understands the passion that you have for this work. So explain to our listening audience, where does that passion come from? How did you actually start on this path? And not only how, but why did you develop this passion around supporting, especially our youth who need support the most?
That's a really good question. I think growing up, I myself come from an immigrant family, but growing up, I'm first generation that graduates college in my family. But just going to church and being involved, I think, in the youth program at church, I had a mentor in church, and he guided me through making sure that, I had a mentor that helped me, and, as I was growing and making decisions in my career, and just being in the community, volunteering in different programs, and looking at the need that, our Black and brown communities need, it, helped me just, wanting to continue on learning and just being part of the community that I grew up. And, like I said, I think part of it is also because it's my ministry. I'm also a very spiritual person, and I believe God put me, in that position to continue on helping, and that's my journey.
Mm-hmm. Well, there is a saying that one can be what they can see. And so you have been a blessing and a model for many, many, many people, youth and adult as well. So let's go into some of the programs, and let's specifically talk about once again, the program that I attended, which was this GED graduation. And I think that this is the only one that I know of in the region. But how did this come about? What's been the reaction, especially not necessarily the youth? We understand what they've done, but the families and the parents and the siblings and the aunts and uncles, grandparents. What's been the response to this program that their daughters, their granddaughters, their sons, their grandsons have been engaged in to do something that some of us feel is just, well, it's old hat, it's commonplace, right? And that's not so common. I think people don't understand the wherewithal of understanding that, there is a journey, and many journeys are different, and some journeys take a person away from the traditional, I went to, to grammar school, middle school, whatever, and then I automatically went to high school and I automatically graduated. That is not the case for everyone. So talk about the program and the reaction that you receive from those who are supporting these students to get their GED.
Yeah, I think, as we have young individuals that come into our program, one of the things that we try to do early on in the program is also getting involved with their families. Sometimes it's not a family member, but just someone that's supporting them. Many times it's a grandma, it's grandparents that bring them into our programs. So, but having their support system and the people that are in their lives has helped us with, if they don't come into class, we call their support system. We call those individuals that, that are pushing them to come back. And so as we're, working with the young individuals, we often tend to call parents when the youth don't come into the office or when they're doing bad. And one time I had a staff person that said, we should also be calling them when they pass a test. If they take a math test and they pass it, we should also be celebrating that. And, and I thought that was really important too, to celebrate the milestone. And getting GED is difficult. I always suggest the youth to continue with high school because GED is hard. It's something that you have to do on your own, that you got to continue on coming, that you got to push it. And that test can be scary and intimidating at times. And so, it came time we get their parents involved in the program and so much sometimes, the people in their lives. Then one day we were like, well, I think we should celebrate this. And it started something small as a meal. And then the parents were just so thankful and so grateful. And the amount of gratitude that we felt, we thought that it was necessary to take this to the next level and make it like a graduation, because our students that finish GED, they never get to wear a cap and gown. They don't, walk down the aisle. They don't get, cheered or applaud. And so we thought we need to do this big, because we think it is a big thing to get your GED. And so we came up with our first GED graduation. I think it was about 8 or 9 years ago. And from there on, we just noticed that I think, the family and the support systems that our young individuals have, the celebration is really for them too, to see their young person walking down with a cap and gown and getting that GED and just thinking about what's next to come for them. So it's definitely very, it feels great to see everybody come together and celebrate them.
I think it's an interesting point, right, both in terms of making sure there's positive reinforcement, how this kind of came out of maybe just having a meal, but now a full-blown graduation where, and I hearken back to my own situation at times where I also am the first person to graduate from college in my family. And, when I graduated with my undergraduate degree, I told my mom, that my dad had passed away, and I told my mom that I'm not going to participate in the graduation, that I had done the work. I didn't need to walk down an aisle. It seemed like a bunch of pomp and circumstance for me. And my mother said to me, I'll never forget it, she said, this graduation is not for you. It's for us. And so to your point, it really was about. And when I, sat in front of that lady who was crying in the next aisle behind me talking about this is the best thing yet. It's palatable. It's something that not only is, to your point, for those students, but it's for those parents who hadn't gotten a chance to see someone march down the aisle and get a cap and gown like someone would say is normal. And again, normal is not so normal for some people. So I want to go into the question around barriers. So many of these individuals that you deal with that come into the GED program, we understand have a host of variables. Their life journey has taken a turn. And so for our listening audience, and I'd love for the viewing callers to call in if you experience GED or if there's a way that you want to get your grandchild, child, cousin, whatever family member involved, you can engage in the conversation at 773-591-1690. Once again, 773-591-1690. And this is the partnership show. So think about it from this lens, Clelia. So What are some of the major barriers that your students come in with this notion of, I dropped out of high school and I need a GED? What are some of the things that you have to first overcome before they get to the finish line of walking down that aisle for your graduation ceremony with that cap and gown?
Yeah, when they come in and they're telling all their stories, it definitely makes us realize, right, that we're in the right place doing the right thing. We have, everybody comes in for different stories, but definitely I think the majority of them are youth who fall behind with their credits for many reasons, what's going on in their home. And I think that is one of the major things, is what's happening at home really affects and impacts the youth in different ways. We have youth that maybe get anxious, who are suffering from depression, whose parents probably get divorced, and they have to be, going back and forth from different homes, and then they fall behind and go, on their credits in school. Moving from different locations. And then we have youth that sometimes their parents work 12, 14 hours a day, and then the parents think that the youth are going to school, and they're not. And then all of a sudden they just get kicked out of school. From gang-affiliated youth who are on parole, and they get referred by their parole officer. Sometimes the youth are court-mandated. But everything stems really from what's going on at the home with the youth and, who is involved in their lives and what's going on.
And so that's an interesting point, because we spoke earlier about the pride and the joy, if you will, and the elation that family members have when they see their grandson or granddaughter or daughter or son or once again brother or sister graduate with that GED and that graduation ceremony. And yet the other side of that coin is many of the barriers that they come in with stem from some of the twists and turns that family life offers up, right? And I told the story of my mom, who went back almost at 50 years old to get her GED because she was told to drop out of high school by her parents, who opened up a small business, and she had to work in the small business. Many of these barriers, at least I believe, and I would love to hear you respond to this, they're no fault of the student. In other words, my mother didn't ask her parents to open up a restaurant and she had to work in it, but she had to do it. And so many of these individuals may be babysitting their younger siblings, right? So these life twists and turns are something that it's not necessarily someone's fault. And so what I saw in your program is not the blame game. It's the how do we get to the game of actually progress and getting them across the finish line. So speak to that in terms of, not judging and not saying, oh, you didn't do what you needed to do, but really the focus is on making sure that people and these students actually get across the finish line and get their degree and move on with their lives.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the reason why it's very important to also involve who they live with, right, and who's their support system, because sometimes the same people who are cheering them on and want them to finish their GED are also there also sometimes could be barriers to the young person, right? So as we're working with the young individuals and we meet with them and we're asking them what's going on, we want to meet with their parents too and see how can we help them get innovative and creative and working in their lives to help the youth go to school. So if you have to take care of your sister, if you have to take care of your sibling, in the afternoons, well, can we have you come in the mornings and attend class? So we're always working together with the families, really, and making sure that parents understand that it is important for the youth, and we're trying to minimize the barriers that the youth have. We provide transportation for them, right? And if they can come in, 2 days out of the week, then we develop ways on how we can also do things virtually, or how they can maybe do tutoring and come in once a week. So the point is just to, little by little, minimize the barriers so the entire family feel that as they're continue on living, and maybe, you know, they need the young person to babysit, but they're still trying to do, and they're still trying to go to school and finish what they needed to. So it is when we talk about it takes a village, definitely, to, you know, to help a youth, it is true. And many times we have to sit multiple times and call parents and do home visits, because sometimes parents, you know, give responsibility, you know, to the individuals to do certain things for the youth. And then we just got to talk to them and see how we can, you know, coordinate all of that for them and help them think about alternative ways, so different ways of doing things, with the opportunity of allowing the youth to continue and come into class.
Yep. So if someone wanted to get engaged in your program, how would they reach you?
They can give us a call at 708-222-3100, or they can come in to our office at 7222 West Cermak. We're open every day, Monday through Friday, from 9 to 5, especially if, you know, young adults are coming in between the ages of 16 and 24. We don't turn anybody away. They don't need an appointment. As soon as they come in and they're interested in our youth program, we have someone that can, you know, talk to them. We have career coaches that are available to talk to them, you know, give them an idea about what the program is about, what we do, and then, you know, we set them for a next appointment. So we also assist, you know, we have also young individuals that maybe finish, you know, their high school diploma, and then they don't know what to do next. What should I do? Should I get a job? How should I start looking for employment? They've never worked. We also assist those individuals because we want to ensure that, you know, we do job readiness training, that we guide them depending on what they want to do. We understand that college, it's not for everybody also, right? But there are different type of trades. There is apprenticeship programs now. So there are different things that we can help the youth explore depending on what their interests are.
You know, we're going to go directly into that because I think that's an important point to really talk about. Okay, now that the person has their GED, what's next? I want to lift up, once again, if people need to get in touch with the partnership, and we are always in touch with you, Claudia. People can reach us at CHI Cook, COOK, Works, WRKS.org, or our general office line is 312-603-0200. That's 312-603-0200. So let's go back right into it. So, you know, you've now worked with this youth. You've had a graduation ceremony. Their family members came. They were elated finally to see. And also we should mention that, you know, sometimes this is waiting a long time. I mean, I heard you talk to me earlier that this could be a year or two, or, you know, shorter, depending upon the individualized program to get a GED. So it's not like this happens in most cases in a week or two. And so that journey now puts that person on the notion of, okay, I've got my GED, I've had my graduation ceremony. What do you guys do next? What's next? You started to go into that. I'd love to hear some of the programs or success stories that you have where someone has come in, gotten a GED, and now they're on to a career.
Yeah, so, you know, many of the youth like to work. You know, they're at an age, they want to have their own money, they like to go out. So one of the activities that we enroll, you know, most of our youth is what we call, it's a pay-to-work experience. And what that is basically is we place them on a job with an employer where they actually have to go and work. We're paying them. But this is just like an internship. You know, we work with many employers in our community who know the young population that we're working with, and they become mentors for the youth too. They allow them to come in, they give them responsibilities for the job, they train them. But what we're doing basically is, you know, for many youth, this is their first time they've ever worked. So we have mentors that come in. They do, they visit them at work with the guidance, with the career planner that is helping them, and the employer understanding that, this young person might be their first experience, and giving them an opportunity and talking to them. We have youth that maybe, they start coming in late to work, and then we talk to them and we let them know you need to make sure that if you come late to work that you let your supervisor know, right? So there's a lot of job readiness, a lot of teaching young people how to behave in the workplace, so we can start preparing them for the real job. So, and that is about an 8-week, a paid work experience. When the young person finishes that paid work experience, that we continue on helping them. Well, what's next? Do you want to get a job, or maybe you want to go to college? Like I mentioned, college is a scary thing for a lot of our young people, right? Maybe they don't want to do a college. Maybe they want to do a short-term career, or they want to get into an apprenticeship, or they want to go and work in construction. So there's different ways. So we start exploring those career, and we do it through, doing assessments, or we do it through shadowing, or we take the youth into, tours to learn what that job is about. And so we start helping them move to the next level based on their interests. So that's why it's good to know what they're interested in, but also letting them explore. Shadowing opportunities are really good for that too. So they can see what the actual job is about. In the past, one of the trainings that we help with is what we call the certified nursing assistants, right? We had many young ladies come in because they want to be CNAs, but when they realize they have to be looking at blood, or maybe helping someone, and now they know that they don't want to do that because it's not what they thought it was going to be. So exploring the different careers is important, so the young people can understand what it is about.
Well, one of the careers that you've explored in terms of the internship program is what I understand is called MCIP, which is the Manufacturing Career Internship Program. So talk to the listening audience about that program, because we know that manufacturing is a high-growth area, that their supply and demand is out of balance. There's more demand that there is supply. And so these careers are not just jobs. We're talking about manufacturing is not what we call your old 1960, manufacturing position where it was a warehouse that was, not clean. These are high-tech, high-paying positions, and they're actually leading to meaningful careers. So talk about MCIP for a minute to our listening audience.
So the manufacturing program, exactly what you said, it's not just a job, what it used to be back in the past. And I think, there's a perception of that. Manufacturing now, it's a career path. So we have, numerical. Manufacturing is computerized now. So you learn how to use, the machines. You learn math with that. You learn measurements, and then the path into manufacturing is that once you learn how to work the different machines, there's a high paying jobs between over $25 an hour that we've seen actually, young people get placed because they're coming out of, a training where they know how to run a machine, they know math, and then, they get into that industry. So most definitely manufacturing is one of those industries that is in high demand.
And your program actually offers paid internships so that individuals can learn and get paid at the same time, correct?
Correct.
And so how does a person actually get engaged in this type of program? Is there a screening process that is required? Do you actually do some type of assessment? If one of our listening audience says, my family member wants to get involved in this internship program to get paid while I'm learning about this field of manufacturing, how do you determine that they're a good fit for the program and how they get engaged in it?
There's a screening process, and I think one of the sometimes that could be an obstacle is also the math portion of it. But there's tutoring opportunities where the youth can get to the level of math, so then they can enter into the internship. So this internship opportunity works with youth from again 16 to 24. They have to be at a certain math level, but there's tutoring opportunities to ensure that the young individual, can have the math level when they get in, once they start the internship. And it's a combination of learning and working and learning as you're working, let's say, and you get paid. So all they would have to do is call and let us know that they're interested, and we'll be able to connect them with the manufacturing internship.
And give us that number again so that our listening audience can reach out to you.
Sure, it's 708-222-3100.
Thank you very much. So let's now go into continue this discussion, if you will, in terms of what I call after GED. So once again, you've got a situation where someone has come in, a student has come in, and they're saying, I really, for whatever reason, I'm behind. I heard a student at the graduation ceremony that I attended speak, and he said that he was 8 years behind. His situation was one in which, to your point earlier, was a family situation. He was being homeschooled, and he found himself woefully behind. And the issue with, and you know this as well as anyone, the issue with getting behind is that in most cases you stay behind. It's very, very, very difficult to catch back up. And so a person has come in, they're behind, they've got these barriers, you work with them, you work with the family, you make sure you understand their support systems and where they are, you follow up, you may have to go out and do home visits, you may have to tell people, look, don't come in here smelling like weed the next time. All of those things you're actually doing to help that person get, again, across the finish line. And now you're actually on the way to them getting across the finish line. You're talking to them about their careers and what they want to do after GED. So tell us some of can you give us, the audience, a success story, if you will, of a person who was, who fit that mold, was challenged when they came in, and now all of a sudden they finished their GED and they're working and they're on a positive career path?
Yeah, most definitely. We have one of the young ladies who came in, who was the speaker at the graduation also, was a young lady who came in for GED, finished her GED. After GED, she really had no clue what she wanted to do in terms of working. She had never held a job before. So we placed her in an internship. We worked with one of the hotels, the Hilton hotels, that allow her to do an internship because of how responsible she demonstrated to be. She started doing the internship. She finished the internship, and then hotel hired her. They hired her, and she was so, like I said, responsible. She's eager to learn. In a 6-month period, she went from doing a front desk assistant to being housekeeping supervisor, and the hotel placed her to a training portion of how to become a supervisor, and now she is a supervisor for the housekeeping department, youngest female supervisor yet.
And so give us a sense of, and I remember her speaking eloquently at the graduation ceremony, highly impressed. One thing that came across to me was the fact that you could tell that this was a motivated individual. And so that motivation had come from somewhere, and I think that, you and your staff, you kind of lit the flame, if you will, that set her on her path. How long did it take her? Give us a timeline in terms of her, actually that first meeting with Central State Circle with you or your staff, until the fact that now she's been made this manager, if you will, in a major hotel in Chicago. What's the timeline? What was the time horizon?
The timeline, so from the moment she comes in, the GED, it was about a year. And mind you, placing her into employment, it took about a year, and that is someone that, from the beginning to the end. Now, that doesn't mean that it's the same, average time for everybody. We have other young adults that, they take them a little longer. I think at the end of the day, the time sometimes it's different, but what's important is to make sure that youth continue on making, even if they're small, right, milestones, but they continue to make those milestones. We've had young people that when they go and do the test, they get anxious, right? And so we have to we have to work differently depending on the need of our young people. But yeah, I say about a year is almost the average between a young person comes, gets their GED, might go through a paid work internship, and then, is placed into employment or is placed into a career path.
Mm-hmm. And you anticipated my question, so I was going to say, is a year about average? Is that faster? Is that slower? I think, the important point here is that while averages can be important, what's really important that I heard you say was these milestones, right? Because somebody could do it faster, somebody could take a little bit longer, but your focus seems to be, and I want you to expound upon this if you might, is that there are milestones that you set up. And I think this is important because I'm going to really kind of go into this in the last, remaining minutes of our call, is milestone setting and goal setting. So when you talked about milestones and making sure that they're attainable, talk a little bit more about how that's an integral part of the program that you're offering up.
Sure. We set our milestones short that we can review them. We do 6 month milestones that we can review them and we can go back and make any adjustments that we need. You often, when we're at the practicing, right, how to interview, one of the questions that I dislike the most is, how do you see yourself in 5 years from now? That's such a hard question to answer, right?
Right.
Because a lot of our young people, and sometimes even adults, we don't even know what's happening in the next month, right? Little 5 years from now. And so that's very scary questions for our young people when we ask them, what do you want to do? Sometimes when they don't even know, right? So we set those milestones short and attainable. That way they don't feel, they're not afraid, they don't feel anxious, that those goals are not so far away that they can attain them. And then we review them. Well, what do we need to change now? We missed this. What do we need to do? What kind of adjustment we need to make so we can attain this next part, right, of our goals? So yeah, short, attainable, that they're not so far away and they're not so scary.
I think the important point, and I think this is so important to talk about, because it's not just with GED attainment or career attainment, but these are life skills that carry us on whatever we're doing. It's setting goals that are attainable and that reinforce the notion that you can attain the next goal, right? Because that's what you're doing. You're saying, okay, let's set these goals small and attainable, so it reinforces the notion to these students who are come in with so many barriers. There's calamities all over the place, but you are saying to them, you can do this, and let's set a goal. And every time you reach a goal, I love the aspect of when they pass a test, you call them and congratulate them, because that was one of the milestones that you set. It's not just calling them up and saying, why didn't you come to class? You didn't show up yesterday. You were late, etc. But it's setting these small, attainable goals in life. And what this does for me is it sets them up for success in the workplace, because that's what the workplace is. The workplace is setting small and attainable goals to accomplish the larger goal. And so how do they react to it, and what are some of the things that you actually try to make sure that they understand about these goals and how to attain them, and how you may have to course correct along the way?
Yeah, and I think, as we're setting those goals, sometimes the thing that we focus the most on is those negatives. Oh, I wasn't able to do that. Oh, I failed. It is okay, right? It is okay to fail. What we need to make sure is that we focus on how to correct that and move on forward. Let's not think so much about, okay, what happened last month? You were not able to do that last month. You couldn't come into class. Well, what can we do to make sure that in the next month you'll come in the days that you need to come in. So always focusing on the present, and how to move forward in the future. Let's not complain. Let's not blame fault. Let's just how to change that attitude, how to change that behavior, because that's going to really, make us move forward. And that's the thing, like you mentioned earlier, not to put blame, not to judge, but let's just start thinking different. Don't put blame. How to change it. Let's think about how to change it.
And so what are some of the things, I could imagine, but I'd love to hear you talk about this, because once you're aware, you're aware. So what are some of the common course corrections you have to make? I think you mentioned it a couple of times, attendance, showing up, right? And so if that's one of the common areas that you have to address, I think that's positive as well, because if you think about it from the other side, setting a behavioral habit of showing up on time and showing up every day carries through life. It's not just about attaining your GED. That will help you on your career and your job, your family. So talk about some of the common things that you have to encounter or you've encountered along the way, whether it's be attendance, on time, cultural competency. What are some of the things that you actually are seeing kind of across the board in terms of what you have to really kind of hone in on as you individualize these programs to fit the individual?
Right, and helping them prioritizing what they have to do for the day, right? One of the things that lately, it's most common is, we know that a lot of our young people are smoking weed, right? So if I'm coming into class and I know you're coming into class high, I mean, honestly, I'm wanting that person that I will tell you, I'm not going to tell you not to smoke weed because, let's be realistic. But I'm going to ask you one thing. How about if you do it after class? When you leave class, you're going to do whatever you need to do. But while you're in class, I need you to be focused, to pay attention, to come in, eat breakfast, put the alarm clock, right? So that's another thing. Like, put the alarm at a certain time that you're going to make it on time. Make sure that when you come in, you're ready and you're prepared. So attendance has been one thing by helping them prioritize their daily activities. So if you got to go and pick up something in the morning, well, wait and do it after class. Don't interrupt class for anything else that you have to do. Give this your priority. You can hang out with your friends, and you can do whatever after that, but while you're in class, be present.
There's a saying that my late dad told me one time, and I don't know where he got it from. I think I've heard it somewhere else, but he said, "Son, life is about doing what you have to do so you can do what you want to do." And so what you're talking about is just not what the theme of the best thing yet, which this show is based on, seems to me around this notion that the GED is just one avenue, but you're actually helping these individuals understand life skills, right? Prioritization, doing what you have to do first so that then that pays for the ability to do what you want to do. These are all, the GED is just a byproduct of the skills that you're teaching these young people along the way, which will help them not only attain their GED, not only become productive in terms of their families and their careers. It's stuff like, you just mentioned it, you need to do this first so that you can do that next. You need to show up on time. You need to be committed to this. And while we will help you along the way, it's these habits that you actually are reinforcing. Aside, this is not just a GED class where you're saying, here's a book, read it, take a test, and come back and tell me if you have issues. That's not what this is about at all. What I'm seeing and hearing is that this is about development of young individuals using the GED as a mechanism and a vehicle to get them to drive to success for their lives. I really want you to kind of talk about that, because I don't want our listening audience to be left with the notion, well, it's just a GED program, everybody does them. That's not what this is, and I'd love to hear your kind of sense of it and how people have reacted to that.
Yeah, it's life skills. It's what you're going to need at your job, and what you're going to need moving forward. For example, we go into class, we also do financial literacy. We also do digital literacy. But then I tell them, from the moment that you're walking in that door, everyone is observing you. We all are watching and seeing what you're doing. And that's the same thing like in the workplace. When you come into work, when you come into the office, you don't know who's watching you. You could have the CEO of the company watching you, and they're going to be looking to see, who you are as an employee. So from the moment you come into the office, good morning, say good morning to the receptionist, go into class, do what you need to do. It's just those small things and those life skills that we got to teach them. Make sure that as you talk to your career planner, there is no bad words that you're saying. Let's start speaking on how you would want to address, your supervisor or your colleague at work. So we start preparing you for the real life.
It's interesting that you talk about, people are watching, and I think that is particularly evident in our Gen Zs and our Alpha generations, right? Because, back in the day, things were hidden. Social media was not as rampant. People didn't have access to your lives, and now not only are people watching you kind of in person, but they're watching you all the time. And so sometimes the differentiator between those who get ahead and those who don't is an understanding that you are being watched, that people are looking at you. They're looking at those skills that you possess. And it sounds like you guys are actually doing a lot of work, and I know you are, in terms of at least those life skill part. Now, let me ask a question on the other side, because our show the partnership show is about reality, right? There have to be individuals who have come through the program, Claudia, who just didn't make it for whatever reasons. They didn't get across the finish line. They didn't get the GED. They didn't drink the Kool-Aid. It didn't happen for them. And so talk to me and our listening audience about what you're seeing as common barriers that stayed barriers, something that just, you see it all the time where, there's common threads here where people who they just didn't finish for these reasons, because once again, if we know what those reasons are, maybe we have a chance to mitigate that risk. So what are some of the commonalities, if you will, in terms of people not being able to make it across the finish line?
I would say this friendships, influences, is those friends that are calling them, I'm out, we're doing this, come on and hang out with us. Well, the youth are probably in class, right? So influences are definitely one of the things that we've lost a lot of our youth, motivation. And no support system, for sure. I remember one time I had a youth tell me, and I'll never forget this, is that we get so much positive reinforcement when they're here, but when we go home, all the negative that we have overcomes the positive. And that was kind of like hard to hear, but it's definitely the influences and their friends that are not doing the same thing they are, and prevent them from continuing, in a path. So yeah, we do lose some. Funny enough, as our young people start turning older, like 20 and 21, we've had a couple come back and say, "Oh, I'm getting older, and I realize that I do need to finish this," and so it's funny to hear them say, "I'm getting older," right?
At 21,
and things start changing.
Right.
Things start changing as they getting older.
Well, it's an old saying. I guess it's old, but it's also new. Is haters gonna hate, right? And it's interesting that you said that, the common thread is outside influences, and that student who told you that was prophetic in terms of, I come here and the environment, because I've been there and I see it. The environment is uber positive. It is ultra positive. It's like you are running programs that basically say that you can, and there are no excuses. You don't allow them, you don't accept them, and you don't succumb to them. But when they leave that facility, to that student's point, there are people out there who want to bring them down to the level in which they are, and they look at them as, why are you trying to move forward and leave us behind? Being left behind for many individuals in these communities, I grew up in them, is scary. And so as those individuals look at those individuals that graduate and they progress on, they're fearful that they're going to be left behind. And that fear causes them to hate. And so, once again, haters are going to hate. That's what they do. And so it's an interesting comment that you made around that is the common thread, right? It's not the fact that they don't want to do this. It's not the fact that they just don't have the stick-to-itiveness. What you're saying is they just get influenced by people who are scared to be left behind. So we're coming to the end of our show. Typically, we wrap up with a song, Open Our Eyes. But I want to say before we play that song that I really, really, really do appreciate you coming on this show and talking about the work that you're doing. It's phenomenal, right? And our youth are in a particular situation where this is much needed, right? This is not something that is a nice to have. This is something that is a have to have. And for those individuals like you who've dedicated your career and your life to the service of others, I really applaud your efforts. I thank you. Thanks for the partnership. You are a beacon of hope for these individuals. And once again, it's the best thing ever that's come into their lives. So as we close our show out, Claudia, thank you very much for joining the partnership show. Thanks to our listening audience. We will see you on the other side. And once again, it's the partnership show, sponsored by George Wright. Thank you.
Thank you.